Hi, I'm Dawn, and welcome to Tagliaferro Ceramics. Today I'm going to give you a tour of the studio and show you the processes we use to make our ceramics. So come with me. We start in the first room where we make all of our wet work, meaning this is where we build all of our pieces from scratch. So we start out with a big chunk of clay, which we put onto our slab roller, and we roll that out into a flat slab like a cookie sheet. We do not use molds or a pottery wheel. Slab building is our preferred means, and the reason we like slab building is because it really binds the fibers together. So when our clay runs through the slab roller, it is condensed and compressed, and it really just kind of creates a strong bond between the fibers of the clay, creating a really strong product. All of our pieces are made with stoneware, and we use several different kinds of stoneware. The stoneware I have out here is a white stoneware. We also use a chocolate and a black. And sometimes we do some pieces in porcelain as well. So as we move on, after we roll out a slab, we lay out our pieces on molds. These are a collection of some of our molds here. These are all plaster molds, and we use what's called a hump mold, where we will drape the clay over top of that mold, let it dry so it's a little firmer, then pop it off the mold, put it on a board, and let it dry for a second phase. And after that, we trim it and shape it a little bit more to create the kind of design we're looking for. So we have some tools that we use for that, and some pieces over here in the works and waiting to be made. These pieces here will become bud vases. So they've gone through their first cut. So they're cut to their initial form, and they will get textured and made into a bud vase. But that's where they start, just a nice simple rectangle. Then we move on to our glaze room. So today we've been working on a little bit of waxing, and we put wax on the bottom of our pieces so that the glaze doesn't get on that portion. Because with high fire stoneware, the actual bottom of the piece will need to sit on the kiln shelf. And if that has glaze on it, the glaze will stick to the kiln shelf and we will have to pry it off. So that is not a good thing. So we both dip in a nice natural soy wax, and we also will brush on a cold wax onto our flatter pieces like plates, pasta bowls, and larger serving bowls. So this is basically where all of our glazing will happen after this wax dries. And we do a combination of both brushing glazes and dipping glazes depending on which effect we want. And finally, after our pieces are dry on these racks here, they'll go in for their first firing. And our studio's in an old barn, so it's kind of rustic in here. And this is where we keep our kilns. So we have two kilns right now that we use, and they work super well, electric firing kilns. And we do fire to a high fire stoneware temperature, which is about 2,000 degrees. So these pieces are turning from, clay, soft clay, to, they call it stoneware because they turn hard like stone, and they're extremely durable. We have a selection of mugs here that are going out to a store, and we use these shelves when they're filled for moving things into the kiln, which we've just moved some things out. So we're ready to put a new batch in for firing. So I'm just going to show you a little bit about dipping wax and creating a wax resist on the bottom of our pieces. We choose to use a nice natural soy wax because traditional paraffin wax can let off soot, and it's really not good for you to breathe in. And something we stand behind here is creating a healthy, clean environment, a work environment, as well as the products that we send out into the world. So as I was saying before in our studio tour, we dip the pieces in the wax, just very simply. Let that drip off there. And what that is for is to keep the piece from sticking to the kiln shelf. So the glaze will not stick on the waxed portion, and then we can put that right in the kiln and it will not stick to the shelf. We also do that as a design preference, kind of use it to our advantage and create a little bit taller line here with the wax, because seeing the raw clay is a beautiful design element mixed with this clean, crisp glaze. You also get a little bit of that raw underlayer of clay, that earth connection that really makes the piece feel warm. So that is why we wax the bottom of our pieces before we glaze here at Tagliaferro Ceramics. So one of our most favorite glazes is a very neat, like clean, crisp, simple white gloss. First thing you have to do when you open up your glazes after they've been sitting for a while is to give them a good mix. So after we've given them a good mix, we pull out our tongs, and this allows us to dip the piece in and not leave a mark on it with our fingers. And we're going to dip today our petal bowl. So this is a black stoneware piece that we imprint with our petal pattern. Take our tongs, dip this piece right in here, let it sit for just a second, and then pull it back out. That gives it a nice coat of glaze. See how that wax resisted on the bottom, and we'll give that a little extra cleaning before we send it out into the world. And that is dipping the petal bowl. And that is the extent of our studio tour. I'm glad you guys could come with us.